Let us start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Panchadasi by Swami Vidyaranya Swami. Now this text is a Prakarana Grantha, and it gives us a methodology of understanding the Upanishads. The Mahavakyas of the Upanishads reveal the truth about our real nature. It says Tatvamasi. You are that Brahman, you are that spiritual being. And then the students, we are trying to understand that statement. Many of the acharyas, the teachers of the past, have developed texts like Vivek Chudamani, like Panchadasi, like Tattvabodha. Shankaracharya has written most of these texts. And other acharyas also have written texts so that the student is able to accept what the Shruti is teaching. The Shruti is giving us the highest knowledge about ourselves. Most of us, what we generally know is, I am born, I am a father, I am a teacher, I am a doctor, I am a lawyer. I work, I get money, I have a simple living, and that's all we know about life. But when we come to the scriptures are able to give us something very, very deep, very, very deep. When you go through this chapter 10, you will understand the last 6 verses from 20 to 26. How deep is this knowledge? And Vidyaranya Swamiji is a brilliant teacher. And he goes to the depth of our mind. All of us have got only one instrument, which is called as the mind, or buddhi, the intellect, to understand our nature. There is nothing else. We can't use the lungs or the kidneys or the heart to understand ourselves. Those are all the physiological functions which keeps the body alive. But the buddhi is the intellect, that instrument which has got the jnana shakti, which can understand the real and the unreal, discriminate, can withdraw, have vairagyam. All those qualities is possible for the buddhi. So we have to use our instrument, which is the buddhi, to understand our real nature. Who is this indweller in this body who is going through this motion of life? Sukham and dukkham and birth and death and all these emotions which we go through. Who is that? When did this jiva start? So in the 7th chapter of this same Panchadasi, about 2 weeks ago, Malati had asked me what are the 7 steps. I thought it will be a good introduction to give you those 7 steps so that you understand the 10th chapter well. The first step, this is a direct teaching of the 7th chapter, but I just want to give you the steps again so that you understand where we are today and what we are trying to reach. Whenever a seeker comes in to study with a guru, he is in a stage called as ignorance. He doesn't know who he is. So the first step, or in the seventh step, is Agnyanam, which is ignorance. That is where we start from. This Agnyanam means it is a covering. It is a veiling of our nature, which is called as Avaranam. So Agnyanam is the ignorance, and the ignorance is caused by Avaranam, which is a Shakti, a power in this body. It is covering my real nature. So the second step to understand is what is this veiling power of Maya. So first step is ignorance, Agnyanam. I must know that I am ignorant about myself. Then I must know what is this ignorance due to. It is because it is covering, there is some power which covers this nature. We will understand it, that power is Tamasic by nature, and it covers my nature. The third step is Vikshepa. Vikshepa means projections. I don't know who I am, therefore I project that I am the body. This is a typical happening in the mind of all of us. This is how the structure of the human body and the mind is. Everybody, there is no exception. If you have a body, you will have Agnyanam, Avaranam, Vikshepa. Vikshepa means I keep on thinking I am the body, I am the mind, and then conduct the whole life. Projection, these are all projections. So the third step is to understand this Vikshepa nature in this body. Then the fourth step is called as Paroksha Jnanam. Paroksha Jnanam means the Guru teaches us that there is something called as Sakshi. That is what is your nature. When it is a distinct thing away from me, it is called as Paroksha Jnana. And then the teacher says, it is no longer Paroksha, you are that Sakshi, Aparoksha Jnana. This is the fifth step. I am that Sakshi is what I have to realize. The 10th chapter is on the fifth step, where a Jiva realizes I am the Sakshi. So now you understand from where we are coming. You see, we already have know all the previous steps: Agnyanam, Avrti or Avaranam, Vikshepa, then Paroksha Jnanam, Aparoksha Jnanam. When this I am the Sakshi gets firmly established in our intellect, the sixth step happens, which is called as Shoka Nivritti, destruction of sorrow. And the seventh step is Nirankusha Tripti Prapti, fulfillment of a jnani in Atma. So these are the 7 steps which we must know as the 7 steps in the spiritual journey to understand my nature, which is Sakshi, and also to know how to get rid of sorrow and live in contentment throughout my life. This is the benefit of this study. There is no contentment, no fulfillment without knowing our nature as Atma, Sakshi. Absolutely, this is revealed by the scriptures. If I do not know my nature as Atma, I will never be able to have peace in life, fulfillment in life, happiness in life, which is what we are all looking forward. Every day we are struggling to live in this three things. And it is escaping us. These three things are never stable in us. And by knowing this Sakshi, I will know how to live a contented life. So that is the purpose, that is the objective of this 10th chapter, a beautiful chapter which takes us deep within ourselves. Very deep. In the last 6 verses, you will be amazed at the depth of this text. Last week, we started with the introduction. The main example, which is the Nataka Deepa, comes in the 10th verse. Before that, Vidyaranya gives us the preparation of why we should inquire into Shastra, how was the world created. That is how he comes from the macro aspect. And then he will zero in on the Sakshi, which is the core of our personality. So where we stopped last week was on the first verse. I'll just go through the first verse with you. The first verse, it says that before this world was projected, or before it came in, this creator alone existed. And because of his power to manifest as creation, he projected this universe. And then he enters the universe as the self, individual self. This is how the scriptures teach us how we also enter into this body. The first verse tells us how the creator entered at the macro level. It is an indirect teaching to us how a jiva enters this body, how the jiva has the powers, it manifests, unmanifests, all that is explained in the first verse. And the methodology which is broadly being taught here is Adhyaropa and Apavada. Adhyaropa means we say that the whole world is a projection. This is how we start. It is a projection on what? On the Atma. So the substratum is Atma or Brahman, and on that, this whole world is rising. Exactly like how it happens in our sleep state. From sleep, we come into waking, again go back to sleep. Apavada means what? You negate the creation. When we do these two methods, what happens is we are left over with something. After we negate the world, what are we left over? That is our real nature. From where we start is our real nature. The world is superimposed. The same world which was superimposed, which is now then removed by the process of negation. So by the process of this superimposition and negation, the Guru reveals that we are pure awareness, consciousness, or Sakshi. In this chapter, he calls it Sakshi. So this is where we stopped last week, and I will continue from this particular slide. There are two distinct entities. One is called as ego. The other is called as awareness. This is how we start. Ultimately, we'll say that ego is nothing, but it is merged always with awareness. That is the last 26th verse. But here when we start as Adhyaropa stage. Now, ego means it is a thought in the mind. And this I thought identifies with the body and mind as the self, as the individual. Superimposition takes place, and this superimposition is called as adhyasa. What is awareness? Awareness means it is the knower of the body. It is the consciousness principle. And it is not only the knower of the body, it is the knower of the entire universe. Therefore, we say that there is only one knower principle, which is consciousness, awareness in the entire universe. It is all pervading and it is eternal. It never changes. It is always there. That knowing principle is what I have to understand as my nature. Now, when we say that there is an error which happens, we are going to study this error in a big detail as we go by. But what happens is that this error needs to be corrected with the knowledge of the adhishtanam, with the knowledge that where is this error coming from? It is coming from that consciousness principle, the Sat principle, that existence, pure existence. And three Upanishadic references have been given by the author in the text itself. In Chandogya Upanishad, Sat, when we say existence, consciousness, Turiyam, all these, basically you should understand this is how the nature is defined. This is how the nature of our own nature is described in these words. In different Upanishads, it is described as different words. In 6th chapter of Chandogya, Sat Vidya. 7th chapter, Bhuma Vidya. Mandukya, we have seen Turiyam. Taittiriya Upanishad calls it Brahman. All these are all only words. They refer to the same awareness, Sakshi principle. When I come to know that knower principle in my body, automatically I merge with the knowing principle of the entire universe. Tattvamasi. This is knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. He becomes everything. Sarvavit sarvam bhavati. This world which we see is Maya. Maya means we cannot explain what it is. It just is a power in that awareness. It's a power. Like we have the power to go to sleep at an individual level. Similarly, there is a power at the macro level to project this universe, take it back. Again project, again take it back. We are all a part of that power, which is called as Maya. But the mystery of Maya is, the substratum for that Maya is this awareness, this consciousness. So by understanding the nature of consciousness, more and more, we will be able to drop our identification with the body and mind. And then say that that pure consciousness is my real nature. So a jnani who has gone through the scriptures, he does not negate the world as non-existent, but he says it is only an appearance. This is how we should also understand. We say Maya means it is an appearance. It appears, disappears, appears, disappears. Always in a state of flux, changing. Morning comes, afternoon comes, evening comes. What is this? It is Maya. It is a power. Whose power is it? It is the power of that pure consciousness. How can I realize it? Only if I know that I am that pure consciousness and I own up that pure awareness as my nature, then only I will get this mystery of Maya unraveled. So whenever we talk about the world, we use the Drik-Drishya Viveka method. We say, I am the consciousness, Drik, I am the screen, I am the seer, the world is seen. Drik is real, Drishyam is an appearance. All people who are ignorant, if you ask anybody today, is the world real? Of course it is real. Nobody will say it's unreal. That is what is called as Agnyanam. You remember I told you the first step, in the 7 steps, the first step is Agnyanam, ignorance. What is that ignorance? That ignorance is taking the world as real, always existing, and I am coming and going in that world. That is called as ignorance. The Vedanta says is completely opposite. What does the Vedanta says? Vedanta says your consciousness principle, the world is appearing and disappearing, you are permanent. Look at how this whole Maya works. It's very beautiful. See how this ignorance is. And we are living with this ignorance throughout our life. Not only this life, we have lived many lives like this. And this is where we have to understand in our own mind how to look at the world and how to look at myself. That's all. That is the only teaching which all the Upanishads, they tell us. They give us this vision of how to look at ourselves as Sakshi. This is the goal. All of us are moving in that goal. So at least we should know what we are trying to achieve by our study. When we come to the 26th verse, you will accept what we are talking about in the first verse is the ultimate which is taught in the 26th verse. The individual and universe is Trigunatmika Maya. This is how the Sankhya people define the world. Trigunatmika Maya. 3 gunas constitute the world. What are the 3 gunas? Tamas, Rajas, Sattva. Sattva means intelligence. Kriya, that means the jnanam portion is Sattva portion. That consciousness aspect is the Sattva. Kriya means Rajas, energy. We have studied this in the Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter. And tamas means matter, inert matter. So together with all these three constitute the world. So if you ask me what am I seeing in the world is only sattva, rajas and tamas, all I'm seeing in the world is some actions going on because of energy in the world. There is knowledge in the world, which is what is sattva, and there is inertness in the world of objects, which is tamas. And the source of all intelligence of how this whole world functions, the source, the intelligent power, the nimitta karanam is this awareness, consciousness. It is not inert. With reference to inert, which cannot know itself, a table cannot smell, a table cannot see, a table cannot taste. That knowingness, the knowledge part of this entire creation rests on this awareness, consciousness principle. This world is a mixture of consciousness on one side and matter on the other side. Two sides of the same coin. And what we say is this awareness consciousness is advayam. It means that without this consciousness, there is no world. The substratum for the world is consciousness. And there is only one consciousness without a second. When you talk about the macro level, this is what it is. Then you will ask me what happens to the individual level. Each one, are they considered as a separate atmas? Are there many atmas, many consciousness? What we say in Vedanta is consciousness is one, but reflections of that consciousness, the chit is one, chidabhasa, that means the reflections are many. This is how Vedanta says. Whereas Nyaya philosopher, another philosopher, he says there are many atmas. It's a very different theory altogether. But not to get confused, there is one consciousness and reflections are many. Therefore, we bring in the concept of Chidabhasa. In Vedanta alone, we talk about reflections of this consciousness. So this Advaitam, consciousness, reflection, this is the way to present the truth of the entire universe. It's a methodology. And what happens when I also learn this methodology, I get to note that my mind is not separate from this Atma. That is the beauty. See, why we study all this is because ultimately we are going to attack our own mind. So here what we are saying is Paramatma, that means this pure awareness at the macro level is the cause of the universe. And that Paramatma is Purnaha, it is complete. That means consciousness, awareness by itself is complete. It is Purnaha. And everything which we see in the universe is an effect. So the cause is awareness, effect is a product, the universe is a product. And the reality of this pure awareness is beyond all pairs of opposites which we experience in life. This awareness is beyond birth and death. Birth and death is at the physical level, at the level of the body, not at the level of awareness. Loss and gain, honor and dishonor, heat and cold, pleasure and pain, all we have seen these pairs in Bhagavad Gita study. Lord Krishna puts it very beautifully and he says, Samatvam. In all this you have Samatvam and then you will realize Atma. which is nirgunam. All this is with gunas. Like we have a magnet, if you look at the North Pole, North and the South, you must have seen this in the school labs. So in a magnet, there are two poles, North Pole and South Pole. But in the center, there is neither North Pole, neither South Pole, neither attraction, neither positive attraction, neither negative attraction, repulsion. So in the center is this Atma, which is neither pleasure, neither pain. It's just an example. Source is complete, effect is limited. Cause is always perfect, effect is imperfect. Swayam eva jagat bhutva. In Vedantic Upanishad, there's a very beautiful Upanishad. It says, we can worship any part of this universe as the Lord, as that pure consciousness, because the entire universe is controlled. The inner controller of this universe is this Paramatma. Paramatma means the same. It is the same Satchidananda Atma. It is just a word, Paramatma, Jivatma. These are all words, but it means the same awareness, consciousness. So in this particular verse, what we should note is, you know the internal ruler who controls this and the next life of all beings from within. The internal controller of this body is a power. That power is called as the power of consciousness. That is what is, that from that power only the whole world comes and the whole world resolves. Pravishat Jiva Rupataha. Lord pervades in every cell of the body. That means this consciousness is there on the toes, it is there on the forehead, in the top of the head. So head to toe, consciousness is pervading in this body as a reflection of that pure consciousness. Because my mind is limited, body is limited, therefore the reflection also becomes limited. But what we should understand is, from the awareness in this body, we should try to notice the glory of that Ishvara, which is all pervading. It is a power of the same consciousness, Maya Shakti, which is in the form of the I sense in this body. The ego in this body thinks that it is independent by itself. It forgets that the nature is not ego, but it is that pure Chit. The glory of the bulb is not the tungsten in one bulb, but the which is burning, but it is the electricity behind the bulb. Similarly, the glow of this body is not this mind which is active and thinking and planning and doing and enjoying, but it is the electricity principle, it is the consciousness, it is the awareness principle, which is what has entered this body and is giving the body the power to act, the power to enjoy. So the jiva, the ego I, is instead of looking at the world for acting and enjoying, it is going back to its roots and looking back and trying to look at Sakshi. When that happens, you are a Jivan Mukta. Keno Upanishad Shrotasya Shrotram, Manaso Manoyat, Vacho Hi Vacham. So this mantra also talks about the same power of awareness, which is behind the five sense organs. When the power reflects in this one organism, then it bursts into the glory of life. That consciousness manifests in this body, and I can recognize that consciousness as my nature because it is manifesting. It is there. So in meditation, when I say that please close your eyes and be a pure being, what we are doing is we are trying to understand that power in us, which is that pure being, which is not attached to the sense organs. But in the presence of that being, that pure being, this body gets activated, it gets energy to function. It becomes known. In the sleep state, we cannot recognize the faculties in this body. But in the waking state, it is that ego I, the shadow I, which appropriates all the glory to itself. It first says the body is mine. After it says the ego I, yeah? I sense in this body owns up the body first. After owning this body, it says that whatever belongs to the body belongs to me. This is how that power expresses in all the bodies. How this I sense comes, how does the I sense go back to its roots? That is the topic of this chapter 10. Human being is not a human being, but he is a divine being. Becomes human when I become human when I get identified as this body. With the body, I become a human being. With the mind, I become a human. When I don't identify with the body and mind, I am a divine being. I am the pure Satchit Ananda. The teaching of Panchadasi is for the ego I. The intellect, the buddhi in this body, the intellect which says I, as soon as you get up in the morning, I want to do, I want to work, I want to go and earn money, I want to bathe the body, I want to do so many actions. That ego I learns to understand that there is an Ishvara principle, universal principle, which is responsible for the functioning of the body. It is this Ishvara which brings in a unity between a human being and nature. That is that reflected consciousness, Chidabhasa. So Ishvara manifests as the nature, which is the total macro, and the same Ishvara, the same Chit principle enters the body, physical body as the Chidabhasa. So in Vedanta, we don't say creation, but what we say is manifestation. Like the dream manifests and unmanifests. Similarly, what we say is waking manifests and unmanifests. The sleep state manifests and manifests. So the three states are nothing, but they are not creation. It is not a produced thing, but it is projected. Two words are used in Vedanta, very important words, Brahman and Maya. Brahman means that pure reality, one being, one vastu, which is non-dual, which is there before creation of the world. That is what is said in the first verse of this text, 10th chapter. The Lord's what Vidyaranya says is, before the creation there was this power, Maya Shakti. And who was the holder of the Maya Shakti? Brahman. Because there cannot be a power without the holder. The holder is this, is just given a name. Brahman is just a name. So that our mind is able to understand and slowly go towards that center of ours. We cannot separate this power. The power is a dynamic aspect of that awareness, consciousness. And that same power can resolve the universe also. That is why we have the Tamasik Principle, which resolves the universe. We go to sleep. Every day, all of us, we go to sleep. Unknowingly, we just say, okay, it's time now, 9 o'clock, I just go. By habit, we just go to lie down. The moment we lie down in the bed, what happens? We fall asleep. How? It is the power. Again in the morning, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, again, like how all the birds, they come out chirping into the world, we also come out, we say, oh, it's a bright morning, and we again get up and start our actions. Again, we put on the coat, and again, we become the Karta Bhokta. All throughout the day, we are only performing action and enjoying the result of the actions. This power of consciousness, when we invoke that power in this body, it is called as Chinmaya. Chinmaya means consciousness, Chaitanya, awareness, Sakshi. These are all words, but it has got very big power behind them. And that is what was said in Chandogya Upanishad, which Vidyaranya quotes here in chapter 6, second section. The world was manifest from this pure awareness, which is without a second. That is what it says in Chandogya. Vedantic Upanishad, it says the same thing, that Om represents this pure awareness. From that Om, the whole world, which is finite world, comes into being. Svetashvara Upanishad, one of the one Upanishad which talks a lot about, if you see that Upanishad, if you want to know what is Maya, you can study this Upanishad. Mayam tu prakritim vidya, Mayinam chu Maheshwaram. That Lord, which we say, that power is from that pure awareness, and that expresses as this whole universe. Suppose you say, what happens if I don't accept this power? Then you yourself will deny your existence. That is what Taittiriya Upanishad says. If you say that there is no Brahman in this world, there is no power of awareness, if you say there's no consciousness, you are saying that you are not existent. Because ultimately, my real nature is awareness. We need to do Srishti Vichara. Srishti Vichara means we have to know about this creation. And how do we, what are the things which we learn about creation? What is the Jiva? That means who is the indweller in this body? Who is the creator? Ishvara, which is basically the cause of this universe. The cause of the universe is Ishvara is both the material cause as well as the intelligent cause. How do I feel very bound to this body? It is because of the mind which is bound. The mind in this is always looking at this body as the self. That is what is the bondage. And how do I get out of this bondage of the mind? By knowing Atma, the Chit, the consciousness behind this mind. So, Vichara is very, very important to understand and come out of this bondage. Mundaka Upanishad tells us how one creator can be the material cause as well as the intelligent cause. And it gives the example of the material cause of a spider which projects a web and withdraws the web into itself. Or like how the hairs grow in the head and then it falls away. So similarly, from this pure being, the pure awareness principle, the entire universe can come. That is what is an example. It's just an example to show that both the causes can be in one source. Parinami means changing. Vivarta means the substratum, changeless. So when we talk about the two causes of universe, Parinami Upadana Karanam, we are talking about like milk changes to a curd, like a seed changes and becomes a tree. The cause is the milk, the karyam, effect is the curd, changing. So one method by which creation can be explained is one thing becoming another thing. The second method is there is no change happening, but it is a substratum. Effect is seen and the cause is the substrate. Like what? Rope snake, mirage water and sand, silver and shell, waker and dream. So what we are talking about is the second type of creation here, second type of appearances. We are not talking about cause and effect. We are talking about substratum and its appearance. That is how we should understand consciousness is a substratum. The world appearing in the waking state or the dream state is an appearance. It is from the substratum, it can project and it can resolve in it. That is the beauty of this Vivarta. Vivarta Upadana Karanam. Consciousness is Vivarta Upadana Karanam. These are all to do with the topic of creation. Gold and ornament, wood and furniture, clay and pot, these are all how cause and effect comes about in creation. Maya or this power is anirvachaniyam. Anirvachaniyam means it is cannot be described. And it is of a lower order of reality. Like, for example, a reflection in a mirror. It is not real, but it is just an appearance. It is a superimposition on the mirror. Reflection is superimposition on the mirror. So the entire universe is nothing else, but it is superimposed on pure consciousness. This is explained in the Taittiriya Upanishad. The mantra is given here. These are all verses which are quoted by Vidyaranya in this chapter. He has given this particular verses. So Paramatma converts into this world, like how the waker converts himself into a dream, the dreamer comes back to the waking. So similarly is this world seen. This Maya Shakti cannot have an independent existence, it has only borrowed existence. This power is not independent. That is why we say the world doesn't have independent existence without me, the consciousness. And this consciousness enters the mind as Chidabhasa. These are all quotes to just to prove the reflection theory. Ultimately, what we say is this pure consciousness cannot be described in words. It cannot, the mind cannot think about it. This will be repeated again in many verses in this chapter. That this pure Sakshi is unthinkable, so don't make it an object. If you make it an object, then you're defeating, you're not reaching it. You just have to own it as your own self. All living beings, we originate from this consciousness and resolve into this consciousness, which is called as Brahman. So the first verse is only talking about creation, and this creation topic goes on till verse number 9. And in the 10th verse, the example of Nataka Deepa comes in. The second verse, I will just give an introduction to it. Let's see. This pure consciousness is called Vishnu when it is in a superior body. That means the Devata called Vishnu. And the same consciousness also is there in the other bodies which are inferior. Now, the inferior bodies, they worship the deities. Like human beings, we worship the deities because the deities have got superior power. They can give us benefits. When we go and pray in a temple, there is a superior power. We pray to it, and then that power has the ability to give us what we are asking for. Suppose I want to pass my exams, and I go and pray. Will I succeed? Yes, because there is a power which can bestow that to me. What Vidyaranya says is, this is how the creation is. There are different organisms which are inferior and superior depending on the body. That is what is said in the second verse of this verse. There is gradation in the organisms and there is life which reflects in them. That means that Chidabhasa is there in all the living beings. Whether it is an animal, whether it is a plant, the power is there to manifest. So plants are also living beings because they have the power, but at a very, very subtle level. Whereas the human being has got the highest power. It can even know this pure consciousness. So deities, human beings, animals, they are different class. Indra has got a long lifespan. Human being has a medium lifespan. Insects, they live for a few seconds. So world is nothing else but is a manifestation of a perfect reality. And it is Trigunatmika Maya. Limitations are all with reference to the body, but not with reference to the consciousness. This grace in this body comes because of this consciousness. It is not from outside. That's what it means. Sukshma Shariram and Karana Shariram. What are they? Sukshma Shariram is created from the Panchabhutas. It has got Taratamyam. Taratamyam means it has got gradation. Your mind is different than my mind. There is a person with a very, very superior mind also. How we use our mind, that is left to us. But there are different grades of minds. That's what it means. See, in the second verse, Vidyaranya is trying to tell us how to see this world, how the world consists of different types of people, different living beings. How is this creation? That is a topic. And what is the Karana Shariram? Karana Shariram is ignorance, which is common to all of us. If we come to know about this pure awareness, we have going beyond this ignorance. Because of this ignorance only, we have different types of bodies according to the gradation of merits and demerits in the Karana Sharira. The Karana Sharira means it is also not created, it is existing all the time. Even before the creation of this Srishti, the Karana Shariram was existing, and it comes back, again it goes into subtle body and gross body, again this is a cycle. For this world, there are two causes. One is pure awareness, which has got no gradation. And the second cause is karma, karma phalam. The karma phalam for each one of us is different. Each one brings a bag of karma phalams to exhaust in this life. Say 70, 80, 90, 100 years of life. What we are doing every day from morning to evening is exhausting. The thoughts which come in our mind are nothing but karma phalams which are being exhausted. I do action, I enjoy. I do action, I get enjoyment. Sometimes the enjoyment is not there, there is dukkha. That is also a part and parcel of life. This life is a mixture of sukham and dukkha. For everybody, whether you are a king, whether you are a prime minister, whether you are an ordinary individual, for all of us, the sukham and dukkham is always there. Only the gradation will go up and down. Even for us, the sukham and dukkham changes. When we are young, we have a young body. We are healthy. We can enjoy life. When we are old, our body is become old. Not we. I have not become old. I am the consciousness aware of a body which is old. Chidabhasa is not a separate entity. It's a lower version of that pure Chit. Maya Shakti has got two powers. One is the wheeling power, and another is the projecting power. I have explained this many times. Wheeling power means it covers the nature of awareness. Projecting power means it makes me think that I am the body, I am the mind, and the world is here in front of me. It is existing all the time. That is the Vikshepa Shakti. It becomes as if it is a second entity. That means the world is separate, I am separate. That is what is called as Vikshepa Shakti in the body, in the mind. So I need to neutralize this Avarna Shakti. I need to neutralize, I need to remove this covering. And once the covering of this goes away, then I can realize the binary format. What is the meaning of binary? I am consciousness, everything else is anatma. Anatma body, anatma mind, anatma world. and Atma I. Atma I is real, Anatma is an appearance. And appearance depends on this I, which is the awareness consciousness principle. This is called as binary format. There are only two, Atma and Atma. All of us have to come to this format in order to have moksha. I have to come and realize I am the pure consciousness. So I need to do Atma Vichara. That is what is said in the third verse, which we will start next week. See, this is a step-by-step process of understanding from the macro world, and then slowly it will come up to the individual. It will come up to the thoughts. It will come up to the reflected consciousness, and it will come to the ultimate Sakshi. The progress is very, very smooth. From verse number 10 onwards, it will go faster. The 20 to 26 is the crux of this entire 10th chapter. 6 beautiful verses, which gives you the whole idea of who am I. You have to wait till the 20th verse to slowly pick up, because this is the way the mind slowly, from macro, we have to come to the, go deeper and deeper inside our own mind. Anyway, we'll take it up next week, and we'll start with the third verse next week. If you have any doubts, you can ask the questions you can put in the chat box. And like I said, this Panchadasi is trying to dissect our own personality, our own mind. It will go to the mind and then understand the reflections of that awareness in the mind. How to see that is what is the crux of this chapter. And Vidyaranya does the same thing in other chapters also. The style of Vidyaranya as a teacher, he does focus on Viveka a lot. Viveka means in the first 5 chapters, he talks about how to differentiate the real consciousness and the unreal appearances of the 3 states. And then he goes deep into the mind and says, there is a Sakshi principle. Understand the Sakshi, own up the Sakshi as your nature. And if you learn how to own that Sakshi, then you are free bird. Then you are not at all bothered about the body. He gives there is a specific methodology he follows, and I'm sure we will succeed once we reach that level. Once we finish this chapter, you will all be able to understand the Sakshi and the entire experiences which we have in the world, how to separate the two. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. There are no questions on the chat box. So Malati, I know you have a question. Go ahead. Did you attend the beginning of the talk? Okay, good. So, you were asking about the 7 steps. Is it clear now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Because it's also good to know that 7 steps to understand this chapter, because you're zooming in on the Sakshi.
Can you just repeat?
What is your question, Malati?
This is Panchadasi.
Yes.
Is it pre-Upanishad or after Upanishad? This study is.
Generally, it's pre-Upanishad, but if you have done the Upanishad before, it's okay. If you have not done also, it's fine. Because we will take the Upanishadic mantras just to give you a reference to the Upanishads, but it doesn't matter.
Why? No.
Huh?
Why I am asking is, the first verse you explain, first verse of the 10th chapter you explained, no?
Yes.
So it was explaining the creation.
Correct.
So when we study the Mandukya, then this explanation of creation becomes so childish, I think.
Yes,
What
I
do you
agree.
say?
I agree, yes. Because creation is, because in Mandukya Upanishad, you have done, which is Ajata Vada. Ajata Vada means they talk about only manifestation, there's no creation. So, you see, this text, because it is slightly intensive, and it goes very deep inside psychological, it's a very, very deep text on psychology. It should be done generally before the Upanishads, because then once the Upanishads come in, then you will be able to understand straight away.
Yes, yes.
So that is why it's called as a Prakarana Grantha. It is a methodology taught like the Tattvabodha, like the Vivek Chudamani and all that. You learn this. And then when you pick up Mandukya Upanishad or Chandogya Upanishad, Tattvamasi, immediately you can link up that Sakshi and say, oh, this is what the Upanishad is trying to reveal to me.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Yes, that's why I was asking whether it's a pre-Upanishadic or
it is pre-Upanishad, yes.
So when you said in the meditation session also,
yes,
world is a drishya and I am the seer.
Correct.
Again, there is a duality.
Yes. At the Upasana level, there will be duality. But that at the knowledge level, the moment you apply knowledge, I am the Sakshi in your own mind, if you say, then you are applying knowledge. It is no longer duality. Everything becomes non-dual. So in your meditation, you can bring back the thoughts of the Upanishads and then realize your nature. You see, there are 2 ways to look at meditations. One is you are trying to do meditation so that your mind becomes focused, your mind becomes concentrated. That is one type of meditation. The second meditation is, which is called as Vedantic meditation, which is what I try to do most of the times.
Yes, it is what we did today is Vedantic meditation.
That's correct. I want to bring the thought of the Vedas and I say, I am that Sakshi. That's it. Because that is very powerful. And that will straight away take you deep inside your own pure awareness. And my focus always in meditation is to remain as that pure being. Because in all our pursuits in life, after this meditation is over for 10 minutes, you are already into the world. You see, your sense organs are already open and you're seeing forms, colors, tasting, you want to go and eat something, you want to do something, you're already a part and parcel of the world. So in the seat of meditation, I'm trying to bring the attention to the pure being, which is our nature. You see, for example, in this 10th chapter, in the 20th verse onwards, it will talk about the sleep state. It will talk about the Mandukya, the same 3 states. Again, Panchadasi Vidyaranya will talk about, and he will say that You are the Sakshi of the mind when it is in the external world, seeing all the objects of the creation. And then Vidyaranya will say, you are the Sakshi when the mind is totally folded up and there is no more any object in creation for you. And you are that pure awareness principle, the witness, the Sakshi of that blank state of the world. You see, in the 20th to 26th, you can go through the notes also, you will find this. This is what, and that's why I'm saying that this is very, very powerful. So, does it answer your questions? Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, good. Shama, you have a question, yes?
Thank you, Shekharji. Namaste. Just really back to Malati's, so the 7 steps.
Yes.
So I'm just missing one particular step. So the first was the Agnyanam,
Yes.
or due to the veiling or the Maya power. And that is very Tamasik, which one can see in different states, in different times of the day as well. You know, that there are times when you just nothing goes, you know, you're so
Yes.
dense, yeah, to just before sleeping. So that's the Tamasik. And then the next one is the Vikshepa, which is perhaps...
No. The first is Ajnanam, the second is Avarnam.
Avarnam or Vikshepa?
No. Avarnam is different, Vikshepa is different.
Oh, I missed out that one.
So that is the step which you missed.
So Avarnam is which one? What is that?
Avarnam means it is the wheeling. Ajnanam means ignorance, which is tamas.
Okay, now I get it.
And the second step is Avarnam.
Power of Maya.
It's a power of Maya.
Yeah, so you've split that into 2 actually.
Yes, that's correct. Ajnanam is ignorance. Second is Avriti, which is the
Tamas, which is tamas.
Yes, wheeling nature, and Vikshepa is the third step.
Which is really much more of Rajas, you know, where we are projecting.
Yes, that's correct. Then your mind is started. You see, the moment you are out of this Ajnanam, suppose where we are supposed to attack is the Ajnanam portion.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I must note that I must remove that Ajnanam, that first of all, I have to acknowledge that I don't know myself.
Yeah, at least wake up.
Yes, wake up. You know, I do not know myself is Ajnanam.
Okay.
Mula Vidya.
Then the avidya comes. Avidya means that covering, you know, that veiling.
Yeah, and then the third one is the Vikshepa.
The third is Vikshepa. Fourth is Paroksha Jnanam.
Paroksha Jnanam.
Paroksha Jnanam. Shoka
Nivrti, and
Tripti Prapti.
Tripti, Tripti.
Nirankusha Tripti Prapti.
Nirankusha
Tripti, yeah.
Tripti Prapti, yeah.
Nirankusha means completely total fulfillment and contentment, you know.
Yeah.
Only when you know Atma, then only you will have contentment in life.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will be always missing something. Hey, I didn't buy this. I didn't buy this. I didn't buy that car. I didn't buy that house. I didn't buy that. You know, so many things are. I keep on missing things in life. This Tripti is the last because it is only a jnani who is fulfilled. According to Vidyaranya, he says you have to become a jnani. Know the Atma, know that consciousness in which the whole world is resting.
Yeah.
After knowing this Atma, in the same 7th chapter, he says, what is there for a jnani to be going after in this world? There is nothing.
Yeah.
Kimichan kasakamaya. That means for why should he go around in this world searching for happiness?
Excellent.
You know?
So, yeah, in the Shukshma Shariram, Taratamyam.
Yes.
Taratamyam, yeah. So in other words, that although the Atman or the consciousness is sane in every being,
yes,
but because of the Sukshma Sharira, it is that's where the difference is in our mental functions. And So,
Yes.
I mean, that just,
You are very different than your husband, you're different than your son. And
absolutely.
they have their own lives because they have brought their own Sukshma Sharira into this body.
And which also explains our different intellectual capacities.
Yes, that's correct.
So in other words, you know, this is just a slightly side question. You know, for example, you know, we have this UN Charter of Equality.
Yes.
So what I'm asking is, to begin with, we should acknowledge that we actually are not really got that equal capacity. So when it comes to a criminal activity, we are actually charged almost with a similar sentence, you know, or maybe it is different. I don't know anything about law. Is it charged similar? You know, like you commit a murder, regardless of who commits it, although our, you know, in our minds, we are so different.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, anyway, just ignore this question. I mean, it's just a funny, this thing. The last question which I have is, you know, in the original creation, which is really amazing that in the original creation, when Brahman Paramatma out of himself, he created the whole creation and all of us, his beings, different jivas. Then at that stage, the Atman was the clear same Atman in all of us. There was no question of a
There's
different.
no creation at all. That is what I'm telling, sir.
Yeah.
No creation. And after studying Mandukya, creation and Jagat is really a void. It is really nullified, I think.
Yes.
We should not give importance to Jagat and creation, and I think so.
Yes.
That's why it is bothering. In Panchadasi, he is telling about the creation. So it bothered me. That's why I asked.
It is for people, not for all people, because different minds are here. You see, you have done different texts, you have understood what is creation, but in this class, there are many people like in the world. So generally, a text is written for people from all types of mind, all mindsets. So this being a Prakarna Grantha, they will say that yes, there is creation, like how all the Upanishads, they say there is a creation, and that is the starting point for a jiva. When you come into the spiritual study, Upanishad also takes the same steps, baby steps first. Come, you see.
In Kenopanishad and Mundaka Upanishad, creation is mentioned.
Yes.
Mundaka, that's why is so in the beginning stage of those initial Upanishads.
Yes.
Then this creation concept is mentioned there.
Correct.
Because he has taken the Chandogya Upanishad and all, because of Sat and Bhuma, so that is where that word creation has come.
Yes.
But here what we have to take is something like creation means manifestation only.
It is an Adhyaropa stage. Adhyaropa means superimposition. You see, what we are saying is Atma is there. Creation is an Adhyaropa. It is a superimposition. It is like on the waker, the dream is coming and going. So similarly, on Atma, the waking creation is coming and going. Creation here includes your body and mind also. You see, don't stand as a body and look at creation. You have to put your own body into the creation also and be only Sakshi. Be only the Chaitanyam. Because Chaitanyam is the knowing principle. The creation is a Jadam. It is an inert principle.
Yeah.
You see, this is a very important lesson in our entire spiritual study. If you understand this particular point, that I am the only consciousness principle in the world, which is a knowing principle.
Yeah.
You see, the body is not knowing me. I am knowing the body. The body is Jadam. The knower of this body, I am shaking my hand. Who knows the hand is moving? I, the consciousness, know the body. This hand is moving. I lift my hand, I drop my hand, I eat. All this is happening in knowingness.
Yeah.
That is why I said that knowingness is getting into 5 sense organs. Through the ears, it comes to know the sound. Through the tongue, it tries to taste. Through the tongue, again, it can speak. But the power is the same one power.
Yeah.
And you just wait till after the 10th verse, you will start enjoying this entire text, because it will get straight into your Sakshi level. The first few verses are only build up. The moment you come to once you enter into the stage, once he starts talking about the stage, about the light and all that, then you'll see the entire teaching gets unfolded. It's a very beautiful way he has unfolded the whole teaching. The idea in this chapter is I should note that I am the pure light of consciousness, which is the knower, which is the knowing principle in this body. In this knowing principle, the mind gets woken up, it sees the world, it goes through the mind. Each one of us has the mind. The mind is nothing. In that mind, a reflection falls every day for us. As soon as you get up in the morning, the reflection starts working. The mind sees different objects, different colors, different things. It interacts with the world. But what he is saying in the end is, whether it is interacting or not interacting, it is always there. This is the ultimate, the leftover. Whenever you go to sleep, what is left over in you? That leftover is what is called as consciousness.
Yeah. But just really in terms of the spiritual practice, because this is established, what you're saying, that ultimately it is one of the first most initial will be the Sakshi and the awareness principle. That has to be totally absorbed, embraced, and keep working onto it all the time. But for it to become really much, much more perfect, would you not have to, up to a certain level, purify your mind, whichever way you will like?
Yes, yes, you have to.
Yeah, because there is no other ways. It's always standing in as a block.
Yes, you are right. You see,
That's why meditation. Yeah.
Yes. Purification of mind is very important, because it will not allow you to sit in meditation.
Absolutely.
Your mind, if it is turbulent, it will not allow you. Impossible. You cannot sit. Okay. All right. Is there any other questions? Yeah, Venkatesh, you have anything?
No, Shekhar. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else has a question?
I'd like to ask you, the duality still cannot be negated, correct?
Duality can be negated by the knowledge of Atma. The duality of the world, you see?
Yes.
What we have to say in the end is world is mithya. World is an appearance. You see, it is not creation. It is, because if it is created, if it is permanent, there is no moksha at all. There is no liberation at all. Suppose there is Atma, the light of consciousness, and also the world. There will be two. That is what is called as Dvaitam. So what Vedanta says is, the world is of a lower order, like the dream. And the Atma is like the waker. It's above the waker, it is a super waker. So from the Atma angle, the world is an appearance, exactly like the dream is an appearance for the waker.
Oh, okay.
And once this is called as mithyatva nishchaya. Mithyatva nishchaya means falsification of the word.
Ah, correct.
You are only falsifying. You are not negating the world as an appearance.
We cannot negate.
You cannot negate the world. You see, it will always come and go.
Right.
You can only say that it is false. It is okay. I'm not going to be too much bothered about it. I'm going to give it relevance to it, whatever it deserves.
Right.
You see, we cannot neglect the world. We have to continue our life in the world. See, we have to come every day morning, we have to bathe the body, we have to take care of the body has to eat. Then all these activities are going on, it will still go on.
Right.
Nobody can stop this because this is a law of nature.
Right.
This is the law of karma. You see, the body goes on, the world will continue. Only what the change which will happen is, you will say, I am the consciousness.
Yeah.
That is the what, see, in the end, Vidyaranya in this chapter will say that I am self-evident, everybody knows that. See, consciousness is always self-evident. But this consciousness is the cause of the world, is Brahman. Brahman means it is the cause of that. That is not self-evident. That you can know only from the scriptures. You see, this is what in the last verse of this chapter, of this 10th chapter, he will explain this.
Okay.
Because my nature of consciousness, it is not produced. Consciousness is not at all produced. If it is produced, then it will end. Like a pot. Suppose you produce a pot, then it will have a beginning, it will have an end. But consciousness, awareness is never produced. It is not a property, it is not a product. It always is. And it is always self-evident. That is why Vidyaranya says that who is the one which is in sleep, aware of the mind which is in sleep? You see, the witness of the condition of your mind in sleep state. Who is it? It is this Sakshi. Without this Sakshi being aware of itself, that is why it says, that is why we say it is self-evident.
Yeah.
Sakshi is self-evident. It is aware of itself. But it knows that there is nothing else in the world. And that is the nature of consciousness.
Right.
Okay, so this is how deep you have to go into your own core of the personality.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Shama.
Just a last thought, really. How would you consider having Amrita Bindu, the second verse which you have quoted
Yes.
today, as your key verse for the Vedanta students website?
Yes, it is. Yes,
That should be the key one, honestly, because that's exactly what you're doing, to try and clear the mind, what is the truth,
yes.
you know. So that, to my mind, it looks like that's a very key message.
Yes, I agree with you. It's a very powerful verse. I really like it a lot. And it's a good suggestion. Let me see. It's a because mind is the cause, and you know, in that verse, he beautifully describes what that bondage is.
Yes.
The bondage is when the mind is attached to the objects.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the same mind, when you withdraw from the objects, becomes free.
Absolutely free. Yeah.
It's free and it will know itself. It will know that its nature is Atma.
Yeah. So you, instead of remaining in the waves, you actually allow yourself to go down deep into the ocean and just absolutely be happy.
You seem to be enjoying the class a lot.
Very, very much. Yeah. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
See, the mind, when it comes, actually, the important role, what I always see is equanimity is very, very important. Like what Bhagavad Gita also, it says, Sitoshna Sukadukkesu Samasanga Vivirjitaha. Like the magnet, what we are seeing, both the North Pole and South Pole, sometimes we get the pleasure and sometimes we get the sorrowness and all.
Yes.
So that thing, what is happening, so we all have to understand it's at the body level, at the mind level. So when we get that equanimity at the neutral position of that magnet, so that can give you a real direction tending towards the Sakshi actually. So like attaining first the binary scenario, that's like I am witnessing the Sakshi. So at least getting away from the objective world, that's very, very important. So that's what this Amrit Bindu is a very, very beautiful one, that liberation from the attachments causing, making yourself detached. That's really equanimity.
Yes.
So that is all the Chama, Dhamma and all the different principles, whatever we
Exactly.
talk.
No,
Yeah,
it's
by
very,
doing
very,
regular, yeah,
very
by doing
conceivable. Yeah.
yeah, by doing regular meditation.
Yeah. What is wonderful, Venkatesh, is because I like the way this Nataka, the element is there. So, you know how the Ranganathan, the ultimate Paramatma, the one who's created all this drama, and I think it's a tragic comedy which he has made actually, because obviously all the jivas suffer, but the Lord himself is enjoying this comedy. He's enjoying it as a comedy show. So if we can actually get to the essence of all of the Vedanta, then we can also be like the Lord himself. We can also be enjoying the drama. There is a possibility. There is a possibility.
So it will happen. You see, what happens, Shama, is when you go and study these things regularly and keep on studying,
Yeah.
what happens to the human mind is, because you have started dwelling on this topic.
Yeah.
You see, when you get up in the morning, you will get a feeling, okay, I've got up in the morning today, I will be facing the world, but ultimately I know I am the core, the whole world is in me.
Yeah.
You see, this is the feeling you will get. Your own mind will tell you this.
Yes.
So
And I
we
can
will-
actually laugh at myself. That's the best part. Even when I'm being very stupid, I can still laugh.
You will still laugh at the world and take the world. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I better keep my mouth shut.
Hari Om, yeah.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Wonderful, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Shekharji,
Yes,
you were
Mansi.
okay. You were explaining about that Amrita Bindu. This one explaining about the mind and its boundings and limitations. So what I'm thinking nowadays is, mind itself is myth. Itself is mithya. So why should I give importance to this?
No, but the problem is, our experience is that we give it a lot of importance. Even though it is, you say it's mithya and all that, this is where that adhyasa comes in, you know. You see, adhyasa is automatically happening in us. That bondage to the mind is already happening. Even though logically, that is what in the Adhyasa Bhashyam, the Shankaracharya says. Logically, you should not have Adhyasa. You should say, I am the consciousness, the mind is separate. And the body is separate. I am the knower of the body, I am the knower of the mind. But the problem is, in experience, in Anubhava, we always take this in our Vyavahara, we always become one.
That we should practice, that separating the Sakshi from the mind.
Yes. So
So
the
when
moment,
so I'm practicing like this. When mind becomes happy, then also I observe that, okay, this is happiness. My mind is experiencing the happiness.
yes.
When I'm sad, I practice that, okay, my mind is sad, not I am sad.
Yes.
So this would be the, this is my following
Yes.
of.
Yeah, that's good. Good, Malti. I'm glad that you're applying all this in your life, you know. Very good.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you and good night, everybody.